Hi, boys and girls. Today is day 2, learning about Queens, one of the boroughs of New York City. So we learned that there's a borough president in each New York City borough. So for Queens, it is Sharon Lee right now. She's the acting president since the elections couldn't happen in March. She's filling in for the borough president. There are many different festivals and celebrations. I listed just a handful of them: the Asian American International Film Festival, Hong Kong Dragon Boat Festival in Flushing Meadows, Corona Park, which we'll talk more about later, the annual Queens County Fair, the Lunar New Year Parade, Poseidon's Parade, Queens International Night Market, Columbian Parade, Sakura Matsuri, Cherry Blossom Festival, where a lot of performers and musicians will play Japanese music. There are so many neighborhoods in Queens too, so you can click on this link later if you want to go to a page to learn more about the different neighborhoods in Queens. Queens is the second most populated borough after Brooklyn. It's home to a diverse population. Dutch and English settlers were the first groups to populate Queens, and today individuals from every corner of the globe immigrate here. The historic landmarks we will discuss provide an insight into the history that shaped Queens into what it is today. A vast area buzzing with different cultures, languages, and customs. And here are some of the neighborhoods that you can explore using the link, and we will also touch on about 2 or 3 of them today. The first one is Rockaway Beach. So if you look at the borough of Queens here, this is where Rockaway Beach is. You may not think of Queens as a beach destination, but in the warmer months, there's Rockaway Beach where people can enjoy the sand on the shores of the Atlantic Ocean right here. There's a boardwalk that parallels miles of the coastline, and you can find food and entertainment along its length, as well as a few blocks inland. I also thought it was worth mentioning there's so many museums, but I picked the top 5 museums in Queens. The MoMA PS1 is a great small contemporary art museum. Now it has retained its edge and helped grow Long Island City into a must-see destination for the arts. And here is Long Island City, just so you can see where it's located. And boys and girls, think about your cultural universals. This is art, and also just said that it helped Long Island City grow. So you can think of the economics. This can go in 2 different bubbles. Museum of the Moving Image. Well, what exactly is a moving image? Boys and girls, this is all about filmmaking and putting things on a movie screen, making animations back in the day when they were doing the different cells. You could see the Simpsons right here. Also, just having different things on the screens and move around. They have a whole exhibit on Jim Henson, the creator of the Muppets. The Museum of the Moving Image is a media museum located in the Astoria neighborhood of Queens, New York City. And here's Astoria right next to Long Island City there. The Museum of the Moving Image is the only institution in the United States dedicated to the art, technology, and social impact of film, television, and digital media. It holds the nation's largest collection of moving image artifacts, screens hundreds of films annually, and offers tons of educational programs. And here you can see the different artifacts, like all the different types of instruments they used to use to film movies. The New York Hall of Science is found in Flushing Meadows Corona Park. You can click on this later to learn more about this, but we're going to also talk more about it in the slides later. It's an interactive science museum focused on its audience of children. It has the most hands-on exhibits in New York City. It's a fun destination for ages 5 and up. For example, in the hands-on design lab, kids can build simple machines or experiment with zip lines and pulleys. So here it's in this area, and we're going to look at it more closely, but I want you to watch this quick video just to learn a little bit of the history behind New York Hall of Science. So let's click on that.
The New York Hall of Science was built originally for the 1964 World's Fair, and unlike the other exhibits and pavilions that were created in '64, we were always intended to remain open and serve as New York City's hands-on science center. The original 1964 World's Fair building is known as the Great Hall, and the exhibit that was in the Great Hall was all about space exploration. So if you think about '64, we hadn't yet traveled to the moon, and the space program was fairly new. Since 64, we have completed 2 expansions, and we now have over 100,000 square feet of exhibit space inside, full of 450 interactive science exhibits. We also have the largest science playground in North America.
So as you can see, it seems a lot of fun and there's a lot of history behind it. Also, there's the Queens Museum, which is also in Flushing Meadows Corona Park. And this museum is next to a famous Unisphere, which I'm going to show you a picture in just a moment. The park's Queen Museum is known for the panorama, a building for building model of New York City. You're going to watch a video at the end to learn more about this, and then where you're going to look at it more closely for tomorrow's activities. Also, their Queens County Farm Museum, Friday, you'll have some videos that you can watch all the different animals on the farm. So if you want to escape the bustle of the city for the peaceful Queens County Farm Museum, which is the longest continuously farmed site in the state, it dates back to 1697. Kids can enjoy a slice of farm life by feeding the goats, the alpacas, among other friendly animals. There are special events like the annual Queens County Fair here, which I mentioned earlier about the celebrations and festivals. Now, this is what's important. You're going to keep hearing about the Flushing Meadows Corona Park. This is the Unisphere, okay? This Unisphere is a 12-story 1964 World's Fair globe structure. And we're going to really learn more about this 1964 World's Fair. This is the largest park in Queens and fourth largest park in all of New York City. It has something for athletics, artists, nature lovers, and technology inclined. There's big field areas that you can play different things, playgrounds, skating areas, handball courts, dog runs. There's also the Queen Museum, which I just mentioned with the panorama of New York City, the New York Hall of Science, which we just talked about, and the Queen Zoo, and the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center, home of the US Open, which you're also going to learn more about. And right outside of this park is Citi Field, home to the Mets, um, a stadium home to the Mets, and a handful of features of the grounds are leftovers from the World's Fair that was held in 1964. Here is one of them. The Unisphere was built in 1964, and this tower, it looks old now, but there's history behind it, and I'd like you to learn more about this tower that was in 1964's fair, World Fair.
Imagine the New York State Pavilion in 1964. It was an incredible sight for people. It was a vibrant place, thousands of people congregated here. You had film going on in the Theaterama. You had the elevators operating up and down the observation towers, bringing people to take in the view of the entire World's Fair, New York City, and the region beyond.
It has become an icon in New York, and it's viewable from the highway, and it's an icon for this park.
Three structures were part of the New York State Pavilion for the 65 World's Fair. The Theaterama, which is the building we're in, and then we turned it into a performing arts center and a theater. The Tent of Tomorrow had the largest map in the world. It was a map of New York State, sponsored by Texaco.
The Tent of Tomorrow was one of the largest suspension cable ceilings in the world when it was constructed in 1964. The compression and tension system here acts like the spokes of a hub of a bike. And that's basically how this ceiling functions in order to stay up. It originally had inserts of fiberglass colored panels, which created a multicolored stained glass ceiling.
And also there were the towers, which held concessions and an observatory area.
At 226 feet in height, the observation tower was the tallest structure at the entire World's Fair, and it really commanded an incredible view. The pavilion was commissioned by Governor Nelson Rockefeller, and he specifically hired Philip Johnson to design the pavilion. He wanted the best for New York State, and that's what we got. We got the best, we got the tallest, we got the largest. It's all here in the pavilion.
So that's really cool history. You could come back and watch that again if you would like. Now here's where the Flushing Meadows Corona Park, it's shaded here, and here you can see more of the greenery and the water of this vast area that we're learning all different landmarks there. Another one is the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center. There's a video at the end that you're going to learn more about it. So the US Open, which meets every August and ends in September at the main court, is the Arthur Ashe Stadium. Other times of the year, there are smaller tournaments for tennis fans, and the courts are actually open to the public, so it makes it a very unique place. And the complex is just across from Citi Field. If you want to learn more about these tennis courts, you can click on this link. There's also the Queens Zoo. It's less crowded than the Central Park Zoo and more compact than the Bronx Zoo. And the Queens Zoo is easy to navigate with young ones. And there's also an aviary that's really fun to see where you can see different birds. There's a petting zoo where that you can feed goats, cows, and sheep, and daily sea lion feedings are also popular. So you can see the Queens Zoo here. You can see the Botanical Gardens over here. And here's the New York Hall of Science. And this is all Corona Park. There's also the Botanical Gardens. So go back here. There it is. The Botanical Gardens, this 39-acre oasis dates back to 1946, and it features bee, herb, and rooftop gardens, as well as a garden specifically designed for kids to explore. Okay, and now the Citi Field is what we're going to talk about. A day at the ballpark practically guarantees family fun. Kids and adults will enjoy seeing the New York Mets in action, and there's more to explore off the field too. You could check out the Mets Hall of Fame and Museum to see memorabilia, trophies, and historic team photos, or grab a photo with the lovable mascot, Mr. Met. Some of you might have met him. Citi Field's food lineup offers plenty for young palates too, with vendors including the Pizza Cupcake, Shake Shack, and the Blue Smoke Barbecue. So today, boys and girls, you're going to complete your work for today. You're going to watch the video, The Queens Museum. It's about 1 or 2 minutes in Flushing Meadows Corona Park. Watch this. They're going to show you the panorama of New York City and the history behind it, and we're going to have a follow-up activity tomorrow. Also watch the video to learn more about the US Open. Here is where anyone who wants to qualify to play in this tournament. So they have to win regional tournaments, and then they come to the US Open, which is in Queens. So it's a really popular place. But what's interesting is about it that it is open to the public, the facilities. So it's a really unique situation if you can actually play where these famous tennis players have played before in the US Open. Learn about the history of the World's Fair. This is something that is talked a lot about with the culture of Queens. So this is a 14-minute video, but it is something you don't want to miss. It goes back and forth from 1964, so take note of the black and white pictures. And then the present day, so that's how you know when they're going back into 1964. You can see the way people are dressed differently and take note of that. But you can see the history and about the World's Fair. And basically this is when everyone came together and learned about different technology, innovations, and it was a way to talk about and incorporate different cultures together. And last, you're going to complete a seesaw activity similar to what you did with the Bronx. It's a cultural universal bubble map. Please listen to the directions carefully, and it's posted on your seesaw activity. Remember, just like I mentioned, the MoMA could be 2 different bubbles. It could be in economics and cultural arts. So really go back to these slides that are in your social studies folder and see how many you can fit in the different cultural universals. Some of them overlap. Really push yourself to do even a better job than what you did during the Bronx activity. Boys and girls, I hope you had fun learning about Queens. You'll continue to learn some interesting facts tomorrow too. Have fun today.